try to figure out how to teach you guys how I use Devonthink, and you can let me know if you need any more information on it. So Devonthink I use for my primary sources. I've also been using it for secondary sources, so just so I can explain this as fast as possible. Basically, Devonthink is a way to manage your documents and all your notes. I think people who aren't in the humanities probably use it for other things when it comes to managing a project, but I'm using it for my dissertation. So basically, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open Devonthink. I think it's free or it costs not too much for students. So basically, you open it and you create a new database. I already have a database, but once you create a new database, you can set where the database is going to be. And when you import PDFs into Devonthink, it's going to save copies of that PDF in that database. So that's why I like to create my database and put it on an external hard drive. So it's in my external hard drive right here, my databases. Or you can keep it on your Mac if you have or your computer storage if you have a lot of space on your computer. So let's say you create a database and it is called dissertation notes, right? So in my dissertation notes, I have a bunch of different documents. So far, this is like a streamlined version of it just so I can show you what it looks like. But right now, let's just say it looks like you have one folder of one type of document, which is World Bank documents. So if I wanted to put in new PDFs, I would go to where that PDF is, and it's in my other external hard drive. It is, where is it? It is in my, one second, sorry. It is in my research drive. So I'd basically go to World Bank's, the World Bank documents, and let's say I want to put in this file from 1980, right? So I would just go to, I'm just going to go to File, Import Files and Folders, and I'll find it on my, I'll find it and I'll put it in. So the reason this helps is because it's a great way to put in all of your notes in one spot. So that's how I've been using it. So I put it in here. It's been uploaded. So after you come home from the archive, let's say COVID ends one day and you have a bunch of PDFs, this is where they will all go, right? And so this is what the PDFs looks like. You can also open it up and read it like this. So it helps to have like a giant monitor in front of you or another screen, or you read it ahead of time and you just annotate it ahead of time. But let's say you're just reading it on this screen. The reason Devonthink is useful is I can go back to this file, and then when you click on the sidebar, right, there's this part which has all the information about it, and then there's this thing called a comment box, and you can click on annotations, and I will just click on new from template, default annotation, and I will be able to open the annotation. And so I go like that, open the document, and I'm taking notes. This is about the Indus Waters Treaty. It's a bunch of correspondence between jerks at the World Bank and jerks in the Indian government, right? And so another useful part about it is I can also, so let's say I'm on page, this is page 2. Let's say I'm on page 3, right? So I can right click it and copy the page link, and I can go page 3. And I can insert the link. So link to add link, and I can insert the link for the page, right? And then you can open this. So you can go right to the page. So that's why I find it useful. It's just a really useful tool. So once you have filled it up with all of your notes, it's a great way to basically, you can search all of your notes. You can tag everything. You can also create basically outlines. And so it's a great way to organize all of your primary sources in one. And while you're typing up your notes on these primary sources, you have links. You can link to other documents. You can link to other PDFs. You can link to secondary sources that you upload into it. And basically, by the end of a research project, all of your PDFs, primary source, secondary source, if you want, will all be in one database. And after it's all in one database, that's when you can start writing. And so I usually, after I finish this, I usually open up either Word or Ulysses, and I'm going to start writing like that, right? But one thing that I haven't played with yet, because I'm still early in my dissertation project, is I'm also going to start like outlining in Devonthink as well, right? And so that's why Devonthink is really useful. You can do it for not just taking notes on your primary and secondary sources and organizing them and creating a whole database of basically ton of different types of sources, but you can also use it to actually write and organize your thoughts. So another thing that's important is that, for example, right now I've just shown you what it looks like if I have one type of document. But as you can see in my research folder, I have documents from the Reagan Library, I have newspaper clippings, I have a ton of different documents from basically everywhere. I have NARA, I have other documents from, where did it go? Sorry, one second. I have other documents from the Eisenhower Library, from the LBJ and JFK Library. So because you have all of these different documents from different archives, you can organize them under different archives, right? And this also works if you work in the archives and you take photos instead of taking PDF documents. You can upload all of the photos into one little thing instead of into one section, right? Instead of uploading it into a PDF if you prefer to read as images. So that's why I think Devonthink is useful. Ultimately, it's going to end up looking like, so if you look at my research notes, this is for another paper that I wrote on water rights. There is a lot more PDFs in here than it is right now, but basically all of my secondary and primary literature was in this database, and I had annotations on it. It's exported to another hard drive now. You can't see it, but basically I had annotations for every single primary and secondary source, and then I exported all of that, and I basically used that, or even if I didn't export it, I used that as I was writing. So that's why I think Devonthink is ultimately going to be useful, because a lot of you who are going to be writing dissertations, or even if you're writing your undergrad thesis, you're probably going to have archives, documents from a couple different archives. You might even just have documents from different newspapers, right? And so organizing them is a really important thing. And then organizing your notes is really important. So basically, what people tell you is that, oh, while you're in the archive, you should take notes on every single thing you take a picture of. As we know, nobody does that, even though they totally should. So when I go to an archive, I basically take pictures of every single document that I need, and I run out of there because I don't like standing for more than 8 hours a day. And so when I come home after a research trip, this is what I'm doing, is I am putting it all into a PDF and then putting them into Devonthink. So that's Devonthink. I hope it is useful.